It is Thursdays with Niko, which means it's Thursday, and there's Niko.
What's up, guys? What is going on? How's everybody doing out here? We are riding some high vibes, baby.
Uh,
Called Lionel Messi. So excited to be on with you guys. I got my second cup of coffee today, which is kind of early for two, but
wow.
that's the type of morning we've had.
Wow.
Hey, special times call for special actions.
hmm I totally agree, man. It's been a lot of buzz, a lot of movement. So, we've been up for a while.
No doubt. Jarrett, go for it. First question to you with Niko.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the simple one of like your initial reaction to the fact that this is actually happening now.
Uh, well, I was excited. I wasn't as surprised as most. We've been in soccer bar at the hand of Diego Cora, journalist that has a lot of connections, and he's been doing a lot of investigative work, including trying to look at the Inter Miami webpage past a certain time and how you couldn't buy tickets past like June. And he thought that was weird, and talking to agents and talking to people. And we kind of thought that it was a high possibility. I never thought that the Barcelona thing was going to happen because obviously all the economical trouble that club has in today's day and age. And then the Saudi Arabia League, being someone who knows how important family is to Lionel Messi, style of life, and even where that league is at, I thought that Messi, if he came down to making a choice, he didn't need money. He probably wanted to go beyond the money and look at other things. Obviously, here he might get some generational money, if he gets part of a club and everything that we expect for signing of this magnitude. So excitement, I think, was the biggest thing, and it's been kind of unreal. I mean, I've been getting calls. I've done shows in Uruguay, in Peru. Newspapers have called and just try to find out more about the league. I mean, this is global. If you don't think that this has been the topic of conversation in every single sports adjacent program, even across the globe, then you better ask somebody, because that's what's been happening.
Wow, he's dropping the road dog here in the show this morning. All right, so question from Parzival. Wasting no time here in the Twitch pitch. Niko, how does the deal change the way teams approach deals in the future? How do you think?
I don't think it changes anything other than maybe having some leverage to go talk to guys like, I don't know, Firmino, the great stars of the world that maybe are still not necessarily close to retirement, but that maybe are looking for a different league to go play at, right? Maybe a guy like De Bruyne, those players that maybe were not even possible at one point. Maybe you could use that as leverage. But in terms of how contracts happen and some of those underlying things that we've seen happen with Gareth Bale, with Chiellini, and I think they're going to happen with Lionel Messi, where you'll get like X amount of money, and I can't wait for the first salary, you know, numbers to show up and see what they put on those books, and we could just laugh about it, when that happens. But all those underlying things, I don't think change anything. I just really do believe that this Lionel Messi move is going to give MLS a little bit more leverage, because this is not a washed up Lionel Messi. I mean, this is a guy that months ago, I guess you could call it months, won a World Cup. He was the most important player for his national team. He's still a guy that's scoring goals, so you expect that productivity to be there. So I think you can use that leverage to do a lot of things.
Jarrett, go for it.
Yeah, I've been trying to be careful in how I talk about him because, like, I guess my thing with Messi is like he's 35. He's capable of everything. What he's going to do, what he has done is he picks his spots. He's not trying to run 6 miles in a game. He's going to pick his spots, and when he picks them, he's very good at picking them and running with them. As far as the structure goes, how do you think this deal, and we've seen the rumors about, basically the super friends coming with Messi in different iterations. How do you think this changes the way salaries or the cap is structured in MLS?
I mean, maybe when you phrase it that way, and I mean, you heard Cherundolo after the LAFC lost, kind of opening up the umbrella, as we call it in Spanish, is just kind of making a little bit of excuses, if you will, about salary cap, and we need to kind of move on with the times. With this Messi thing and maybe the Super Friends coming, as you put it, perhaps there is some leadway to start adding another DP or adding some capita to the salary cap. I don't see it going away. To be honest, I don't want to see it go away. I've talked about it in this show, about some of the great things that come with the salary cap. However, I'm not sure if I buy everything that I'm reading, right? That Jordi Alba's coming and that Suarez is coming. Like, I can see Busquets being a guy that, Inter Miami has had interest in the past, that they've looked at, that they could bring in with Lionel Messi. The Tata Martino move makes all kinds of sense. So those things I can see. But I would like to think that Chris Henderson and Inter Miami understand that they can't just bring all of Messi's homies. Like, just because he's Messi, yes, he's Messi. Of course, you want to make sure that he feels real good. But maybe you get him to help you out with getting some younger guys out here as well. I mean, it's not just going to be a whole bunch of bingo friends at Inter Miami. So because of that, I think we do have to be careful with how rumors get started, because in South America right now, everybody who's had some sort of contact with Messi is all of a sudden Inter Miami's radar. And that's going to happen over and over and over again. So just to kind of conclude the point, I think that maybe there is a little bit of leadway that this might force the league to change a couple of things and add some DP spots or things like that. But to be honest, I haven't heard anything in the underline from anybody that I've talked to, GMs, sporting directors. There don't seem to be anything in the near future. So maybe Messi being Messi just changes it all.
I think what you probably need, instead of just blowing the roof off of it and sitting there going, okay, everybody free spend, because then you're going 180 degrees to what you've created under the single entity model in Major League Soccer. You've got to have a floor and you've got to have a ceiling. But I think that what you do is you really put a ceiling out there, and you really have to enforce that floor, because, as you know, being there in Seattle, there is an investment in the academy. I mean, 11 different players with academy ties have made appearances in recent times for the Sounders. You have Philadelphia, who works through the academy. FC Dallas goes through the academy. Atlanta has academy. So I think that there are teams that still will do things that way and then bring in folks over the top. And I think that if you do it that way with a floor and a ceiling, you're still going to have folks that are going to be like the Arizona Coyotes, but you're still also going to have folks that want to be right there up against the cap number, like Vegas and Toronto and that kind of a thing. I think that you have to enforce that, though. You can't just sit there and blow the roof off of everything and go, yeah, new DPs, everybody spends what you want, because then you really do risk doing what other leagues have done and have failed at miserably.
Yeah, I agree. And it's those things that have Barcelona in bankruptcy right now, right? And Lord knows what other teams are in the red and owing their entire future. So, yes, I agree with you. I think that balance is important, maybe creating less of a gap in between, like, the TAM players and your DP players. I mean, there's so many things that can be added to what the current system is at that I'd be okay with it. But I'm totally with you. As long as they don't completely change it and go away with it and give in to the pressure of people who either not know much about MLS in general, or they just want to follow exactly what the Premier League does and what La Liga does. MLS has done a very good job at being their own brand and their own system, and I want that to continue to be that way because of everything that I've said in the past in terms of equality in competition and domestic play, the academies, and all of those measures that I think really forced clubs to use all of those elements and not just depend on the wallet.
Jared Smith with Niko Moreno.
Do you think any of this comes with like because we've had a lot of questions about the playing surfaces here because Atlanta has turf. I know you guys have turf out there in Seattle. Portland's got it, but turf has changed. So even the last 3 or 4 years, it's a different animal than it was in the past. Do you think there was hopefully been any discussion about like, hey man, I know turf ain't your favorite. Maybe if you want to negotiate like, hey, 10, 15 minutes at the end of the game kind of thing, but people are coming out to see you, so playing surface be damned, we might get you out here for a little bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, Messi's going to be able to put whatever he wants in that contract. He might not even have to put it in writing. He'd just be able to say, hey, you know what? I woke up today and I had a dream that I didn't want to play on turf, so I'm not. And so he won't, right? So
Yep.
I do believe that you're right, that things have got better. I mean, I wouldn't put my hands over fire or had the back of this CenturyLink turf by any means. I mean, I wouldn't play there if I was Lionel Messi, to be quite frank. But I think that there will be times that maybe things get better, and hopefully this Lumen Field turf gets changed sometime soon. But in general senses, there could be occasions where he might want to just play. I remember Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? He was a guy that had that ego and that
No.
he got that ego and that persona and the ability to tell LA Galaxy what the heck he wanted to do, and he played here at Lumen Field. So I think that maybe at some point Messi, who I would like to think is less of a diva in that part, maybe wouldn't mind playing a half or even a full game.
Folks that have been in the Twitch pitch over the last 2 shows have expressed a concern that bringing in Lionel Messi and the rest of the bingo friends is an MLS 1.0 move, where we've seen MLS get to probably, you want to say MLS 2.5, where it is right now. Some of the folks in the Twitch pitch have posited that this, bringing in Messi and the bingo friends, is an MLS 1.0 move, where you're bringing in the aging star and then you bring in more aging stars and have that as your base. What is your thought on that notion? Is this MLS 2.5 heading to MLS 3.0 because it's Messi and what it can do, because of all the what could be part of the deal and everything involving percentages with corporate partners, that kind of a thing? Or is this a 1.0 move in your mind?
No, I think that's a fair point to bring up and a concern that's valid, because we don't want this to once again go from bringing a guy like Cucho Hernandez to all of a sudden we're bringing Danny Alves, right? I mean, that's not the direction we want the league to take. So I get it. However, like I said just a few minutes ago, I do believe that Messi is also someone that wants to win. He wouldn't want to be a guy that came to Inter Miami and was in the Higuain status that just couldn't quite cut it. He's a competitor. He's someone that's going to want good players around him. I do believe that his soccer IQ is high. Once he gets to this league and realizes the physicality and the range that you have to cover, he's going to want better players around him. So I don't expect this move to be like the ones before, where he's going to have a trend of older retired players coming here, because of who Messi is. And why this move is not like anything we've ever seen before is because Messi's unlike any player we've ever seen before. I mean, he's literally the best player, arguably the best player in the history of the game to many. Nicolas Odero just said yesterday he believes that Messi is the best player ever. So whenever you get a chance to bring in a guy like Messi, you can't compare it to Pirlo or a Terry Henry, even a Zlatan. I mean, you can't compare those players. David Beckham was huge for this league, and he was a game changer at that point in time. But David Beckham cannot hold or tie his cleats, Lionel Messi's cleats. I mean, that's just plain and simple. All due
we
respect
went
to
over
who
that
he was as
yesterday.
a soccer player, but Leo is Leo. So because of that, I just think this is different. And when you bring that player, you just take it, right? I mean, Inter Miami went from having 1 million followers to 5 million followers on Instagram. I mean, all eyes will be on MLS. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is the topic of conversation everywhere. So when you're talking about marketing and globalizing the league to extend that, although they've been growing, now that's just going to double, triple, quadruple. That's what Messi does. So he's just unlike anything we've ever seen before. And that's why it's unlike any of the moves in MLS 0.1 or 2, or now I think we're at 3, 2.5 now going to 3.
I have no idea. I think we're on like 3.5 now. I think we're on a beta release of 4 is what we're at. I think Messi is like the beta release of 4. But yeah, to your point, like we had this conversation yesterday about like as far as players go, like yeah, Beckham changed this league when he came here. All the respect to Beckham, he ain't Messi. Like you talk about it, it's on the field, the potential for special moments is astronomical. Aside from the marketing, the exposure, the brand expansion, like you talk about making the whole damn thing more international. I gotta say the one thing I'm excited about is you talked about some of the younger guys. You imagine being a kid in the academy in Miami, and like Messi's out there. Maybe you had a good week and you're training with the first team. You're training with Messi at like 17 years old. You imagine that life.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, excellence inspire excellence, man. And I think having a guy like that at any point in your club is key, right? And you just said it. You're looking up to playing with this guy, and you want to imitate him, and you want to be able to peak your level of play in order to just get a training session with the guy. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting for everyone. It's exciting for media members. It's exciting for every player in the league just to be able to say, hey, I was in the same pitch as Lionel Messi. Not everybody has gotten a chance to play with Leo, as there are quite a few in MLS. But at this point in time, man, that's just unheard of. So I think it's unbelievable.
All right.
I mean,
so
to that point, like I don't know if you saw this story last week in Atlanta. Ozzy played with the Twos. Ozzy Alonso played with the Twos this week. John's trying to steal his jersey because Ozzy wore a number 85, and that might be the only number 85 that ever gets made with Ozzy's name on the back. But there's a kid who came out of Atlanta United's academy, David Mejia, a Peruvian player, who grew up out in Washington. And you talk about that impact of, growing up and idolizing these guys. Mejia had a picture that he took with Ozzy when he was like 9 or 10 years old, when Ozzy was out in Seattle and Mejia grew out on the West Coast. And then they got to play together the other night. And Mejia scored 2 goals and got to share the field with him. I mean, to your point, like, I can't imagine the ideas in these kids' heads of being like 15, 16, 17 years old. And you might get to share the field with a guy who might be the reason you play the game in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, Ozzy's one of those guys when he was here with all the young guys like Roldan, he was, so influential for Nicolas Odero today, to a guy like Obed Vargas. I mean, those are the players that you want to watch and follow and see and get to inspire you. And now you're talking about a whole other level because you got Lionel Messi. So as I said, man, I think it's a no-brainer. That is a move that you have to make. You got to praise the Moss brothers and Inter Miami for making it happen, the league in general for going for it. Because, as I said, this is unlike any other move. And this is beyond just marketing. Once again, I want to make that very clear. This is not just about let's get the brand out there because we have Lionel Messi, like maybe the Saudi Arabia league might have done. Because they don't have that infrastructure. They're not as developed as I believe this MLS league is. But you will get the soccer player. You will get the guy that's going to be able to get there.
All right. We've got 8 minutes. And so obviously what we do when you come on with us is we do our weekly segment of red light, yellow light, green light. I'm guessing that Inter Miami gets a green light this week. Who gets your yellow light this week?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I'm not ready to give Inter Miami a green light just yet. Messi needs to get here, and he might be the savior, but there's a lot going on with Miami that I do not like. Green light this week around. I'm going to give it to a team that I haven't said that I went yellow on, but it was kind of trending down yellow. So today I'm going to confirm him as a green, and it's San Luis City. Okay. I think San Luis City's been able to get results. They've been able to once again live up to the expectation of that pressure. I think Lowen is one of the best midfielders in MLS today. How he influenced the game. Just this game against Houston, he was playing kind of more on the left side, putting great balls into the box, being a difference maker on set pieces. I just really like that this team has been able to finally find ways to win without clause, and being able to find ways to win without maybe one plan. Because even when the pressure is not working, they're finding other ways to be effective on the offensive end. So I'm ready to give them once again that green light. They're top of the West. They're a team that at home is very hard to beat. So because of all those important aspects, I think I'm going to put them at the green. I think Vasilev also. I think he's been so good, and that's a guy I think Inter Miami wish they had back as well. But he's been so good at just creating space for everybody, being a full-on motor guy constantly. I like their defensive shape in general. And look, I know Houston is kind of on the decline, and we'll talk about that in red light. But still, the 3-0 win, that's a big one.
All right, so Jared, I know you turn into a pumpkin. Give me your green, your yellow, and your red light before you go.
Oh, God. Honestly, I think for green, it's a team we saw last night. I think LAFC is going to be fine. Now that the Cup is behind them, now the CONCACAF Champions League is behind them, I think they will continue to – I think they will be in very good shape. They put on a good show last night. Brad Guzan just got possessed for 90 minutes. I'm yellow with a team like Houston. I'm not necessarily quite to red light, but they're limited in what they can do. And it's a multi-year. I think you bring in Ben Olsen for a multi-year project.
Yeah.
You don't bring in Ben Olsen to magically turn this around in 6 months. It's gonna take longer than that. And I think in the long term they can be okay. I don't know what their ceiling can be. Depends on how much they're willing to spend. Depends on how they're willing to market it, and what should be kind of like. Man, look, Houston's got like Atlanta vibes for basketball. Like Houston and MLS feels like what Atlanta could be for the NBA. Like it could be a monster if you just did it right.
Absolutely.
But you just haven't recently. And then for red light, I mean, is it still Chicago? Like,
yeah.
That kind of new manager bounce, just kind of the dead cat quit bouncing, metaphorically speaking. It's their problems went deeper than Ezra Hendrickson. I wasn't a fan of firing him at the time because I thought they could not close out games to save their lives. Not unlike San Jose this year or Atlanta, they could not close out games to save their lives. And then now it just seems like they got a little bit of a boost after all that, but it just kind of feels like that boost is really starting to wane, and Chicago still has roster issues, and I don't love their chances going forward. Although I do like the shout for, hey, Miami still got problems as well. Like all of this is great, all this is great. Miami still got problems. They still got to have a conversation with God about all this.
Yep. All right. So you'll be back for a weekend whip around tomorrow.
Yep.
All right. So we'll see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning on the East Coast. So the question is, before we get into your other lights, before we get into juice boxes, Jason Nix wants to know: will Messi play on turf? That's what you have to find out. Apparently, Jason Nix says that is your assignment. Will Messi play on turf?
Plain and simple, if I had to take a guess today, I'd say no. I just feel like at so early coming into the league, and he's gonna want to, I think, take it easy when it comes to those circumstances. He's gonna have an adaptation moment happening for him, because even the best player in the planet in the history of the game, he's never had to play in Miami on a Saturday and then fly to LA on a Wednesday and then come back to Houston after that. I mean, it's tiring. It's taxing. It's something that not every player is used to, going from the climatic changes of playing in Houston to playing in Montreal and back to Seattle, and now you're back in Miami. Those are things that people might overlook, but they're not easy to do. And I can't take all of the credit here. I talked to Craig Weibel yesterday. He had some really good points about the difference of playing in Spain, where 80% of the games you go to in bus, because Spain is not that big, to moving to the United States in MLS as a league, where you're taking planes absolutely everywhere. And even if you take a private jet and you're leaving the Cristiano Ronaldo life, and you got Oprah hanging out next to you in this flight, I mean, it's going to be difficult to just get used to that amount of travel in the family aspects and everything. So because of that, I think he's going to take it easy with the turf just to start off, and then maybe later on down the road, we'll see how that plays out.
All right. So who's your red light this week? Or which direction did we not do?
Yeah. So we went green with City.
Okay.
Cornell bringing that team back to the early success. Red, because I respect Jared, I will not put Houston in the red. I'm going to leave him there at orange, and I'm going to go with the LA Galaxy. And what is the parameters of green light, yellow light, red light? If I give you a new, different reason, well, I'm going to once again put him in the red, because I think U.S. Open Cup was this rubber ducky holding on to their season, and all of a sudden you're kind of in the middle of the pool, and that just got popped.
Wow.
And I expect changes. I expect Greg Vanney to go at some point. Javier Hernandez came off in a stretcher yesterday. That's huge blow for this team. That's the one player that they can count on at least having the right attitude and keeping guys accountable and busting his behind off for 90 minutes, 96, 100. It didn't matter how much they played. Go ahead and criticize Javier Hernandez's inability to score sometimes, and criticize his twitching on a 1 a.m., 2 a.m., right before a game. Fine, I'm okay with that. But don't criticize the man's commitment to his team and the club and the fans. So I think that's a big player out. Hopefully he's okay. Haven't heard anything, obviously. But if that's a big injury, watch out, because that team's going to not just lose Javier Hernandez, a soccer player, but Javier Hernandez, the leader.
All right, a couple of juice boxes we want to get into before we go. Obviously, folks on our side of the Mississippi River want to know what you think about Atlanta United. They're at home. They get DC United, one of the 7:30s on Saturday night. Atlanta United's a minus 133. Your draw and DC are both within the margin of error, around a plus 300.
Man, Atlanta's been so difficult, man. And they proved right everything that I've talked about just last night, man. I mean, there were moments where Purata would make a great defensive play, and then he's trying to come out the back and just completely gives the ball away on a free, easy ball, and he creates a bad moment. Araujo takes on 2-3 guys and loses the ball. He might be the guy that loses the ball most in this league, man. I mean, it is unbelievable. there's one time where Araujo kind of gets far on the right side, makes a beautiful move on the defender. He has all this space all right, and then doesn't put the ball where Gigi wants it, and Gigi's giving you all of this. So, man, I have a hard time figuring out how this unit can be more cohesive. So against DC United, a team that, if they have something, is a little bit of an identity, how they play, set pieces, how they start just right off of kickoffs, very structured at this time. This is going to be a difficult one for Atlanta, but I'm going to take the draw on it. I've been doing good on the draws. that Portland Sounders one was a good one. So yeah, I'm going to take the draw with this one, just simply because I think it's going to be a little bit of a chess match. I could see maybe Gonzalo being a little bit cautious, not in terms of like parking the bus, but how much they're going to hold possession, how selective they're going to be when they push forward. So yeah, I can see this as a draw.
All right, Seattle's in Charlotte. Charlotte is a plus 139 at home. Your draw is a plus 233. Sounders on the road are a plus 190. What do you think?
I'm taking the road team. And I'm taking them confidently in this one. Charlotte might be just unfortunate and out of luck because they're getting a bunch of players back. I mean, you're going to see Raul Ruidiaz first start. You're going to see Christian Roldan first start. You're going to see Alex Roldan back in lineup after being off in suspension. You're going to get a team that just got Obed Vargas back from the U20s. We talked to him yesterday. Talked about how he's just seeing the game a little bit different, how he got the ability to get higher up the pitch and being an influencer in that final third. There's possibility of Jordan Morris being cleared for minutes in this one. That's not set in stone just yet. We'll see what Brian says here in a couple of hours. But with all those things present and a team that I believe is waiting for a statement win against a Charlotte squad that has defensive woes, it's very open in the midfield, their press is very toothless and ineffective, I can see Seattle dominating this one. So I'm going to take the home team. I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Seattle.
All right, then the third match, considering two of the teams that you mentioned in red light, yellow light, green light, they're playing each other Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock until you get the Super Hyper Mega pregame show and it goes to 1:25. All Caps SC, St. Louis. City is hosting LAG. All Caps is at home is a minus 105. Your draw is a plus 273, and LAG is a plus 250 heading to St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking City in this one. You're talking about a team that just got punched in the face by a not-so-good Houston team. You just put everything that you had into what could have saved your year. So you got players that are going to be dead. Delgado, Brugman, Ricky. I mean, these are guys that have played a lot of minutes over this last week. And this one was not just frustrating, but it was a taxing game. So I'm taking City without a doubt. They're coming on a high. They look good. I just talked about how differently they can win in today's day and age. And if there's something that LA Galaxy doesn't do well, is taking care of the ball. And turnovers in key sectors of the field where transition is easy for the opponent, and that's what City does well. So I'm taking City.
All right. One question before you go from the Twitch pitch. Luis Abram is a part of the Atlanta United roster, Peruvian national. He's gotten a couple of caps, but he hasn't had the opportunity to crack the lineup for Atlanta United. So folks were wondering what your knowledge base of Luis Abram is, the kind of player that he is, what he can bring to the table if he's able to crack the starting lineup or crack the game day roster for Gonzalo Pineda.
Well, as I said, when you guys brought me on and, we talked about it, I was close to breaking those news. There is a mix and very either you love him or you hate him type of look into him as a player. I think that he physically could do a lot of things right for this Atlanta team. He's good on the one-on-one. He can really get forward, wins a lot of duels, but he's inconsistent coming out the back. And that's something that's so important for this Atlanta team. You saw it just yesterday, right? They get those center backs so high. They're part of the build-up. They're part of the reset. You saw the problems that he had in Open Cup. So because of that, I just don't know if he quite fits what Gonzalo wants to do. As much as Purata drives me crazy, I feel like he could give you more positives than negatives. The ceiling on Luis Abram could be higher than Purata's, but you got to get him there. And I just don't know if he's quite there yet. So what I would say is give him some time to get used to the league, get used to the system, get used to what Gonzalo wants, get coached up by Gonzalo Pineda. And as far as I know, he's a coachable player. So with all those things considered, I think he's a player that could be important in 2024, not so much in 2023.
All right, what's going on with Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
Soccer Bar, we just had a beautiful, wonderful discussion with Nicolas Odero about Lionel Messi coming back, about being halfway point through what could be the last season of his Sanders career. Very interesting statements from him there. We also have a conversation with Albert Rusnak. We got the insight of everything that Brian Spencer had to say about the Timbers draw, what's coming up with Charlotte. We'll have some word about what's said today in just a couple of hours. Will Jordan Morris play? Will he not? You catch that at Pulso Sports. Soccer Bar should be fun, man. We have one of the members of our team, John Rojas, be a complete not believer in the Messi possibilities. He was sure, he was certain that it wasn't going to happen. Today, he's going to have to eat crow. So if you get time, 1 p.m. Pacific, should be a good one.
All right. As always, thanks for sticking them with stoppage time and hanging out with us past the time where they put up the big old light board and they gave us 10. They put 10 on the big old light board this morning past regulation time. Niko, as always, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, John. I love being back in the 7:30 slot, man. I feel animated, feel revived. Let's do it, man. Happy to be on. We'll be back next week.
You got it, brother. All right. That is